And let me bring us on social media,
Okay.
and I'll let you know when we're going to start. I'm actually broadcasting from my house today.
Good.
Travels.
You're back home from your trip.
I am.
Yes.
Pastor, do you Bethel Baptist Church?
Okay, and I got to click on here to get the sound. Good, we have the sound. And we are just about ready to start. So it's your broadcast, so I'll leave the introductions to you.
Okay.
You're ready to go.
Okay. Welcome to Mental Health in Your Neighborhood. This is Louise Carcione. I'm here with Pastor Bruce Wall this morning. We're live, and it's really important that we talk about things that have been going on the past couple of weeks that have impacted us. How about you, Pastor?
Well, I wanted to make sure that we check in with you, just to check in and see how you were doing first before we go anywhere else.
Well, I have to admit that I'm rehabbing very, very slowly. I would like to be going more quickly, but I'm not. I'm just going slowly.
And so the question is, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling better each day, but it's not as much strength as I prefer.
Okay. And so basically slowing down a little bit, taking your time, and not getting on the highway and driving at 90 miles an hour anymore.
No, no.
And you know, you have a number of people who are assisting you and helping you in different areas. So I think that's great to see people rally around you, your family and your church members and your friends.
Yes,
Right?
and there were two Christian brothers who picked me up from home to take me to church on Sunday, and a different one that brought me back home.
Oh, so you had two on a Sunday to pick you up, take you home.
Two brothers, yes.
Well, that's good. So it's great to see people rallying around you to make sure that things get done in your house and at your church, and that your relationships with your friends you stay connected, and you really get to see who people are when you're at a point of needing them and they respond.
I have to admit that I was very surprised. For example, last week, Monday, one of my sons arrived at my condo, did a lot of work for me, watered my plants, took care of some things I asked him to do. Tuesday, a second son arrived, went shopping for me, grocery shopping. He brought everything home, he put it away, he packed it up and put it away properly. Wednesday, my daughter came and she brought a smaller walker for me to learn how to use inside my condo, because the walker I use to go to the church, for example, is too large.
So again, people are looking at you and they're making assessments, and without you even asking, sometimes they're right there responding to things that they can see.
Right. I'm to do anything because they live a distance away from me, but they are making arrangements with each other and showing up.
Well, that's good. That doesn't happen in every circumstance. Sometimes people live in different cities and towns and they can't, different states, different parts of the country,
Right.
and they can't always fly back into a city. Or sometimes they'll say, Mom or Dad, now you have to live with us. And so you have to leave your place and travel with them to their city, to their town. And you have to very quickly in your mind make the adjustment that, you know, life is changing for you.
Well, I really didn't want to go and live close to where my four children live here in Massachusetts, because I came to the beach because my sister, who was killed in Dorchester, as you remember, she always wanted to live at Nantasket. So I brought what I believed was her spirit. And now she's been here for a while, and that has worked out fine for me.
Well, that's good. That's very good. So let me ask you, if you said for the past couple of weeks, different things have been happening in our city and in our country. What are some of those things that you have been seeing happening either in the city of Boston or in the country that have caused you concern or you think might be causing other people concerns?
Well, there have been some shootings. There have been, there was several things that took place not too far away from where we are. And I was concerned about how people don't think about the safety of the people that they pass on the sidewalk.
Right. Well, the other thing is that with the uptick in violence in the city, um, we have a new police commissioner, we have a new mayor, we have new people, um, we have new people who are trying to figure out how to combat this. We have a new attorney general, a new governor, who will be taking over in a couple months. And all of this is happening while we're having a transfer of leadership or transfer of power. And there are a lot of people in the community having meetings and trying to come together to do something about it. But every time we have a shooting or a murder, people, the residents activate themselves. And then when the shootings go down and the murders slow down, they deactivate. Then the shootings and the murders and homicides start up again, and they rev up and they start to meet again. So there's no sustained group of people that are working on this crisis to come up with a comprehensive, we use the term comprehensive plan that will stop it, and then a maintenance program to keep it where it should be rather than always being out of control. What do you think about that thought?
Well, it's something that other people who are listening to our broadcast this morning, I hope, pass the information on to their neighbors and friends, because it's pretty frightening. I mean, for example, the new governor is the first woman to be governor of Massachusetts. And I met her a while back in Roxbury at an open meeting where people were talking about how they were going to communicate with each other and stay safe in their neighborhoods. And that happened several years ago. And the other thing that happened was, I know that you had a conversation with the new commissioner.
Right.
So
I did have a conversation.
Yeah, we're each trying to do something. We're trying to communicate with people who have the ability to do something, but we need to find a way for the something to be done with people together.
Right, well, I think part of the problem is, unfortunately, there are some people, even those in government, who look at a crisis as a way of asking the federal government or the state government for financial resources to address the issue. We need more resources to hire more police. We need more resources to hire more trauma people. We need more resources to do this and that to combat this. And then you have people in the community who are saying the same thing. We need grants to help us to go to work on this problem. So there's a lot of money that comes into the state and into the city to address these issues. Now, I don't know how the state and city get along with each other while this is happening, but I do know in the community, it seems sometimes that each group is trying to outdo the other group to get the attention so that the money can flow to them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And that's why, the comment that I made earlier was that I'm concerned about the fact that some people do meet together for a few moments on certain days, and then they go back to their homes and something else happens and they complain about something that took place in their neighborhood or in their backyard or on their street.
Right. So this just makes it so difficult to try to address this issue because we haven't had such an uptick in homicides and shootings and stabbings like this in a long time. So, for example, if the Mayor Marty Walsh was the mayor, he could just activate the teams that he already had in place and say, okay, you need to activate. But with the new mayor is putting new people in all these positions. Some of these people have never had to address a citywide crisis with the notoriety that the city is receiving now because of this, with the pressure basically saying that the mayor doesn't really know exactly what to do with the homicides, the shootings, the stabbings, or to deal with Miracle Mile down at the South End with all of the people who were sleeping and living on the streets. Although a couple weeks ago, I did drive by and I saw a lot of chain link fences up on the street, on the sidewalk. And I somehow they have been able to push the people somewhere else because you do not see hundreds of people lining the streets and defecating on the streets. You don't see that now as we did a month ago. So when the pressure became so intense on the mayor that she had to do something. You haven't been, obviously, you haven't been in that area lately.
No, but the other thing that's important for us to mention on the broadcast is that the mayor worked for the previous mayor a very long time. She was an intern with him, with Menino.
Right.
This mayor, who is a combination Black and Asian woman who has 2 children because she has a white husband, and she is very aware of things in the city. She worked for many, many weeks with Mayor Menino when he was alive and when he was the mayor.
Right. And so, but I don't know, you don't know whether or not her strategy is from the Menino camp or if she is coming up with her own way of doing things, recognizing that although she was under Mayor Menino, she was in the Boston City Council for many years under Mayor Marty Walsh and others. So she has been able, I'm sure she's contrasting the work that she did under Mayor Menino to what she now needs to do differently, because we have a different city, you know, different leaders, they're all doing things differently. Have you also been watching some of the problems and fights that have been taking place in the city council chambers? They had a brawl there about a month ago with the people sitting in the stands, started fighting each other. Did you see all of that?
Yes, I see everything because I spend a great deal of time at home since I left the hospital and my rehab center and I came home. And I watch TV, so I get to see all of the things that take place that are shared with those of us who are able to watch it on TV.
Right. Basically, you're saying you have enough time to watch all of this, as maybe you didn't before, because you're sitting at home and you're not traveling as you
Right,
used to travel. So
right.
that makes it
I used to travel as I worked. When I worked
right,
for the Commonwealth, I worked for 50 years and I
right,
traveled across the state, north, south, and on the ferry as
right.
well. So now I'm actually home in my unit and able to see what's going on. And I'm hoping that the people who are watching us today, Pastor, might be able to share some information with us that we're looking for. Maybe someone who's listening could give you a call or give me a call at some point and tell me what's going on.
Unfortunately, they can't call us because I'm in my house and you're in your house, so there's no phone for them to call. They can call the studio, and if they call the studio and the phone number, I'll make sure the phone number is on the webpage, then someone in the studio could type and relay a question to us from people if they call into the studio.
Well, that's interesting. So you have to tell people how they can get a message to us on the air.
Right, right. So if they want to talk with you or make a comment, they can they could call us at the studio at 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the way to do it. And what I'll do for those times that I'm home and I'm broadcasting from the house, I'll set up a screen that will have the number in the background so that people can actually see the number in the background. So there's a lot going on in our city, but there's also a lot going on in the country. I don't know if you listened to the news last night or watched the former president make his announcement that he's running for the presidency in
Yes,
2024.
I heard that this morning.
Any thoughts on that?
Uh, I I hope he doesn't get elected because I don't think that he really has done a good job. I wasn't paying too much attention when he was on the in the White House, but
Right.
when that January 6th thing happened and all of those people, some were police, some were firefighters, some were people who owned small businesses, they all packed up and brought things to fight with and went to the White House to attack people inside the White House. I thought that was disgusting and very frightening to our Americans in the community.
So his announcing that he's going to run for office is not met with everybody with a smile on their faces, is what you're saying.
Yes, well, there's no smile on my face, but there are also some Republicans who are not happy about it either. And the interesting thing is, I know some people know this, but a while back, this particular former president, Mr. Trump, was a Democrat. So he
And
switched from a Democrat to become a Republican.
right, right. Well, I was told today that his one of his daughters had indicated her and her husband had indicated that they are not going to be participating in the election and that they're going to stay wherever they live, and they wish their father well in his pursuit of the presidency. I think they're basically saying they've had enough of it, and I'm sure they're basically saying that they've had enough of all of the visibility and scrutiny and all the things that they have gone through. That I never thought I'd hear one of the Trump children basically abandon their father. Did you hear that at all?
Yes, I did. That was his daughter, Ivanka. But the other thing too that is important is there was another activity that involved people who were concerned about what was going on in the community.
Right, right. And the other thing that's happening is Mike Pence, I believe, is
That's
gearing
the
up.
person I was just thinking of. I was just you are reading my mind, Pastor.
So go ahead, make your comment.
Well, I was going to say that there was an interview between one of the guys on TV and Mike Pence to ask him what he thought about January 6th, what he thought about the presidency for himself, what he thought about the presidency for Trump. He was asked all those things and he gave his comment.
Right. Well, I think that I think that Mike Pence is going to run. There'll probably be as many people running on the Republican ticket for the presidency as did when the former president ran the first time. And so we don't know. Mrs. DeSantis from Florida, I'm sure, is also going to run
Yes.
for the presidency. So this is going to be something to watch. And we've got 2 weeks, 2 years to live with all of this. And if Donald Trump becomes president again, I think he's going to be looking to become president forever.
Right.
I think he wants to move in that direction. It's going to be a very scary times
Mhm.
for the country, I think.
Yes. Yes.
So do you have I don't have many people around me who are Donald Trump supporters. Do you have people around you who are Donald Trump supporters?
Yes. There are people in my family that I know are supporters of the Republican Party and Donald Trump.
So do they ask you your position? Do you tell them how you feel?
Well, they know the position that I have without even asking me. They have said they didn't really want to discuss anything with me because they didn't want to get into a disagreement with their mother.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I don't know if you can hear the dogs in the background.
No, I can't.
Okay, good. That's good. Because they are barking up a mile a minute. Well, now that I'm back in the city, I'm going to try to re-enter into the city quietly, not aggressively. And there have been some people who have wanted me to come and alongside of them and be involved in helping to address the shootings in Boston. But I have said to people that there's a whole new group of people trying to address this. And I'm just going to lay back and let them do it because I won't always be around. I don't have the level of energy that I had years ago. And I'm not sure if my tactics or my strategy would work on these young people today, because everything has really changed. And I'm hoping that if I sense that these folk that have all started having meetings all over the city are basically twiddling their thumbs or going in circles, then I might make some comments. But I don't know if you've recognized that I have had no visibility, no publicity around all of this as I used to, because I'm sitting down and staying put.
I know it. And the number of pastors in the Boston community that used to be standing on the street with you are no longer doing that either. There's only one or two pastors that are talking to anybody publicly.
Right. And I think that what some people have done and what I have done is, even if I was going to be involved, it doesn't look good to have a pastor right now be in the forefront of this and talking about it. And then you have Bruce Wall jump up and start talking about it. It would look like there's competition between the two, or tension. There needs to be a leader, and other people come around that person and provide resources, support, and strategy to help that leader to do the job that they're doing. You cannot have multiple visible leadership all addressing the same problem. It becomes just too chaotic.
Well, Pastor, I respect your opinion and I respect your plan. So you just go in the direction that you want to go.
You and I are now seniors, right? We're seniors. Um,
Yeah.
I wasn't here on Sunday, as you know. I was in another state. How was the service on Sunday? And who, by the way, was the preacher?
The preacher was Greaves.
Greaves or Richard Scott?
No, Greaves. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry. It was Richard Scott. Yeah,
right.
Greaves was another week. Okay.
So what was Richard Scott talking about? Do you remember? Or did
He
you fall
talked
asleep during the service?
No, he talked about, for a long period of time, he talked about all the things that brought him to the interest of the church.
Okay. And do you recall any of those? And what do you think he was trying to do by getting up and talking about what brought him to the church? What do you think he was trying to say to the congregation?
I think he was trying to tell the congregation about himself, about who
Okay.
he was at one time when he was younger, and how he, for example, he mentioned that when he was much, much younger, he had a problem with white people.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I didn't know it either. And it was interesting to hear that he has now changed his mind about that,
Right.
particularly since I was sitting right in front of him in the sanctuary.
Did he look at you when he said that
Sure,
and called you
sure he
name?
looked at me, but I mean, I'm not concerned about his attitude because he's always been respectful to me, always.
Right.
He and his
And
wife.
so what changed his mind or his attitude? Did he say?
He mentioned something, but I can't be that specific about it at the moment. But
Did he talk about karate?
he talked about karate quite a bit, and he talked about the church he came from,
Okay.
which is the church you came from.
Yeah.
And so he talked about how important that was and what a change he made to come to our church.
Well, right. One of the things he said to me is that years ago we had a strong men's ministry, and it was that men's ministry that pulled him to come to Global Ministries, because he was looking to be a part of a church that focused on men as well as women, as well as young people. Isn't it amazing how churches have their ups and their downs?
Mhm.
They're strong in this area, that area, strong in another area. And then over a period of years, as leadership changes or leadership ages, if you don't have somebody coming in to take the baton and run with it, those things that you used to do, you don't do them any longer in the church because the people who led it are no longer able to lead it. Is that something you see?
Yes, I do, because the interesting thing is that although he was talking about himself and about his attitude about a number of things and how important being in our church now is for him, it brought me to think about my church too, because you and I have been friends for a long time. It's almost 30 years, Pastor.
Right.
And I've been going to our church, and all of the people in our church I see as my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, now that I'm home and I had been in the hospital and rehab, so forth, and I've actually been in the hospital 4 times
Yeah.
the last few years. But I can't imagine going to a local church. I wouldn't know one single person as
And going, yeah,
compared to global ministries.
right. It would be like starting all over again, wouldn't it? Going into a church where you don't know people?
I couldn't imagine beginning that at my age and at my experience with global ministries and my experience with Dorchester and all the things that you and I have talked about in before the broadcast, during the broadcast, when we did the Boston broadcast too in
Yes,
Roxbury.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
mean, that was amazing, that broadcast, when you and I went there every week.
Right. And you actually started to learn the telephone system at WEZE in Quincy. And every time that phone rang, you picked it up, screened the call, then you gave it to me. And the longer we stayed there, the more people who waited for us to come on and started
Mhm.
to call in every single week. That was
Right.
amazing.
Yes, yes, yes. There are lots of amazing things that you and I have had. And I know you mentioned that we're aging. Everybody is aging, but
Hmm.
you and I have, I mean, I'm older than you are, Pastor, but I'm just pleased and grateful to Jesus for allowing me to wake up every day and to pray every day and to be able to talk with my brothers and sisters at our church, to talk with my neighbors who live near me at the condo here in Hull, and and all of the exchange I'm having with my children right now.
Well, Leon Rock is watching us from his, uh, what do we call it? Um, his hidden assignment. We're not
Uh-huh.
going to say where he's calling from, at an undisclosed location, we say. And he's actually watching us on Facebook, so we appreciate the fact that he's there. Um, you and I are watching, and others are seeing the same thing. First of all, I talk to different people about different churches around the country, and every time I hear somebody say that the church has not reopened, the church still has not reopened, or the church will never reopen, that really troubles me, um, to see that these churches have closed their doors forever, number one. Number two, I was in a state where a church that had thousands of members, way down to just hundreds, not thousands, and they've had to lay off, um, 12, 15, 16 staff people. That must be very devastating, mental health in your neighborhood broadcast. That must be emotionally traumatic to be in a church and with a team of people. A pandemic hits, the church has to close. They no longer have the resources, and 12 or 15 of the people that you work side by side with are gone. And then the other thing is, how does the pastor decide who goes and who stays? That must be a tough decision for a pastor who truly loves his flock. You have to go, you have to go. And if they let people go, not all at the same time, but 1 week you let 5 go, the next week you let 10 go, the next week you let 15 go, other people would be sitting wondering, am I next? That is so rattling, I think.
Mhm.
And when you look at what happened with Twitter, uh, Musk took it over. He bought it. He now owns it, and he's released thousands, 10,000, 11,000 people at one day.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
at and I just read something a few minutes ago that said he said to the staff that's remaining, "I need you to work more proficiently and much quicker because and to take on more responsibility because in order to keep Twitter going, everybody has to work harder because we now have less people doing the work." That how does a company recover from something like that with people saying, if he let go of 11,000, is he going to let go of 10,000? How do you live not knowing whether or not your job is secure? If you
Well,
were a
yeah.
human resource person, how would you handle that?
Well, I don't know because I worked for a corporation that was the government, and the government wanted me to do a job that many people in my agency were not interested in doing. So I
Yeah.
had no trouble doing the job, and I wasn't concerned about being let go. But when I was asked to retire, I did. And 2 weeks later, I was asked to come back
Why was that, Louise?
because no one was willing to do or able to do the job I was doing. And the commissioner wanted me to be able to come back and do what I had been doing.
So did you come back?
Yes, I went back for several years.
Uh,
Yes.
See, see, now I find that to be an amazing experience for you to recognize that you were asked to retire and you made a decision to comply. And then how long did it take for them to call you back? A
Two
week, a month,
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
They called me
And
back in 2 weeks.
was there, did you feel at all, and did you say to yourself, I don't think I'm going back? I don't like how they let me go. Did you have any of those thoughts at all?
No, I didn't have an attitude that was negative because I knew that what I did across the state, north and south, and by way of the, the boat, I knew that the people that I spoke with that were under contract to the Department of Mental Health
Yeah.
were an advantage for me. People that I was interested in meeting, interested in talking to, interested in teaching what the process should be for them to continue to retain their contract.
Well,
And it worked
that's
well. It worked well. I had no problem.
well, that's good because when I knew you, you were working. You had a very pivotal job. People in the city knew you. People that I knew you, and so some people would come to me and say, "You know Louise, or do you know Louise?" And that's because of your community activism. How does it feel now? Again, as both of us are getting older, how does it feel now to not be as involved in your city the city that where you go to church, the city that you used to live in. How does it feel not to be involved any longer?
Well, I had to accept the fact that I had a few medical problems that had to be dealt with. And so once that occurred, I just had to do what I had to do. And so I felt badly about giving something up. But on the other hand, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do what I did as well as I did it before. So I had to allow somebody else to take my place. And the people the man who took my place didn't know how to do my job. So what he does is he contacts the people, the mental health contractors, and asks them to pick up and do something here, there, or everywhere.
Well, you've done a good job. You got to, because I didn't know that you were going to be in the bunker with the mayor from time to time, and I was rather impressed when you would tell me that you were in the bunker with the mayor. So what is she? What kind of working relationships does she have? How did you? How did you get to the point where you were trusted enough and needed to be that close to the top political leaders in the state?
Well, what was interesting was that I was assigned from my agency to be in the bunker. And I went there on a regular basis, but I never told anybody that I was there or what I was doing. I was just there. And I was assigned to make contact with all the other agency folks who were in the building that was underground. So we were underground in the bunker out in Framingham. And there were times when I actually slept over because they needed me.
Right. And if I was working with the state and I was in the bunker with the top leaders of the state, I myself would probably not want to broadcast that all over the place because you just never know what people might be willing to do to hurt you or hold you hostage or to just to alter your plan. So I probably would have been quiet until I no longer was serving in that capacity, and I would not let a lot of people know about that. And so, as we continue to talk about mental health in your neighborhood, just talking with you today, it seems that you are making the adjustment to having had been in the hospital for 4 times, you said, right?
4 different times, yes.
And what, in 2 years?
In several years, and I actually had cancer removed one time.
Right.
And other times it's been different kinds of medical issues to deal with.
So you have been able to you've had to make a lot of adjustments in your
Yes.
own thinking. And so to be able to do that and still offer people mental health support, to have a program that talks about mental health in your neighborhood, that's pretty good. One last thing I wanted to ask you without you mentioning any names at all, because whenever I connect with you, I always think about this person. You had a friend whose family members had to struggle with dementia, and that person was saying how they're watching themselves to see if there's any sign of the dementia happening in their lives. You had a broadcast, the lady was on your broadcast. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes.
How is she doing?
Well,
If
I
you know.
haven't talked with her or seen her recently,
Okay.
but I'm assuming that she's doing well.
Yeah, that to me was a very eye-opening broadcast for me. It was an eye-opener. And to have somebody be willing to talk about that, about their struggles with it, about their family struggles with it, that's the kind of broadcast that
Mhm.
we should be doing, because a lot of people want to run away from even thinking about something like that. But this
Right.
person was heading right into it and willing to give
Mhm.
us some of the things that we need to think about if that's the path that we're going down. So one of these days, if we're able to get her on Zoom, it'd be nice to get an update with her. You've had some very fascinating social workers, psychologists, therapists on your broadcast, and um, we're going to keep playing and re-airing and re-airing and re-airing your broadcast because you've had a lot of significant people on it. And now that you're not inviting a lot of people on as you did before, it's probably because you have the best person on now.
Yes, my good friend and my senior pastor, Bruce Wall. But the other thing too, Pastor, is that I have a psychologist who came to visit me in my home the other day,
Okay.
and he's willing to be on a broadcast with me again.
How did you talk? How did you talk that person into it?
I didn't have to talk him into it. I just said, I'd like to have you back on my broadcast. And he said, just let me know.
Well, yeah, I want you to know that Renee Wise is watching the broadcast from her office. And while you and I were broadcasting, I went into her computer, and I was able to watch what she was watching on her computer. Because I try
Mhm.
to make sure that while I'm not at the studio and I'm on a broadcast with you, I'm trying to make sure that the staff is watching the broadcast and
Mhm.
not doing other things. And so when I went into her broadcast through my phone, she kicked me out. So I don't know what she's watching. But the team is helping this broadcast to go on all of our platforms when I'm
Mhm.
not in the studio, when I'm at my home. Isn't it fascinating, Louise, from the beginning of this broadcast, when we started the broadcast in 2010 on the satellite station? We didn't have TV, it was just satellite, it was just radio. We didn't have any of that.
I know
And it
it.
just keeps growing and growing.
We just grew up with the process that we were able to grow into.
Right, and the many different radio stations that we have been on in Boston alone. We've been on stations outside of Boston, but we've been on many radio stations in Boston. And I don't know
Mhm.
if you remember when we used to have the broadcast out of the Taste of Eden, we would broadcast at the
Yes,
Taste of Eden.
yes.
And I were I don't know how we did it. Were you at the studio on WEZE on the Saturday night when we did a 6 o'clock broadcast at the Taste of Eden? I think you actually went to the studio to handle the phones, but I was at the Taste of Eden. Do you remember that at all?
I remember being on the phone, not doing any broadcasting.
That that is something. That is really something. Um, So we have about, let me check our time here. We have about 7 minutes to go. Did you set a date at all
For what?
for the person that you said you were going to bring on your broadcast?
No,
Do
I
you have it?
haven't, because I wanted to be sure that the Zoom was working for me first.
Okay, right. That would have been embarrassing if he came on, I came on, and you were either upside down or your
Uh,
screen wasn't on. So
yeah,
now
exactly.
you do
I have
understand?
known, by the way, Pastor, I have known this psychologist for 50 years.
So this psychologist came by as a friend, not professionally.
right, right.
Okay,
But
all right.
he is a professional, and he did work in the prison once I was working in the prison with some of the lifers.
Okay. Well, I'm very pleased again that your friends still connecting with you and are concerned about you. But you know, when you pour love and support into people's lives, it comes back to you when they are trying to connect with you, when they're concerned about you. And apparently
Mhm.
that's what's happening in Ulam.
Yes, and I know when the first time I returned to the church, a number of my sisters and one of my brothers came over to me and hugged me and said how grateful they were to see me in the church.
Oh, wow.
So I was very pleased about that as well.
So in your church, you're saying in your church, you feel loved.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's nobody treats me with anything except a good attitude, love, Christian faith.
So that becomes like a magnet that draws people back to the church when they come every week or they come to prayer
Mhm.
meetings and they don't feel rejected. They feel that they can open their hearts and talk and share. That's attractive to a church fellowship. That's attractive to people who are in desperate need, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that more people are coming to our church.
I do find that to be true, and I do find that to be um, very interesting because some of the people we don't know. We don't know some of the people that are coming in. And
Absolutely. There, yes. Mhm.
I'm always trying to figure out how they found us.
Well,
And
last Sunday or the Sunday before, I'm not sure which Sunday it was, but there were two men that came and sat behind my Christian brother and me, and they live outside.
they're homeless, you mean?
Yes, yes.
How did you know that?
Because they said they were praying out loud and I could hear what they were saying.
Wow. And you don't know who they were connected with in the church?
Yes, I do. I just don't want to name that person,
Sure, sure.
but that person, they were connected with that person.
That's good. That's good. That's
It
good.
has to do with the Friday night connection with the
Good.
people that our people at the church talk with
Right, right,
up
right.
the
Going
street.
out. Sure, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
And I see some of them coming in slowly but surely. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to keep some of these brothers and sisters and find a way to assist them in the areas where they have needs. Well, one of the areas of need is always to be loved and cared for,
Mhm.
uh, to be fed. I'm glad that the food is being brought to our church for us to distribute,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because there are people in our congregation and in the other congregation, and Pastor Hobb said a few Sundays ago, he went to the church across the street. When it was warm out, people were stopping people who were walking down the street and saying, "We have food," and people were turning around and coming into the church to get it. So I'm very pleased at what that little contribution has
Mhm.
made to be a drawing card for our church. Now, before we go, we have 2 minutes. Do you notice something that I have on today?
I noticed that you're wearing an orange cap that I haven't
Right,
seen before.
right. So it is not orange. In the lighting would make it appear to be orange, but it is a red hat. And I was just
It's red?
wondering,
Oh,
it's a red hat. It's the lighting in here. It's a red hat, and because Donald Trump followers wear a red hat that says make me what again? It's something about make me whole again or whatever.
I can't see it. Yeah, but
Okay,
it
well,
does on the broadcast. It looks orange.
Okay, well, the hat basically says, I'm gonna actually get a nice red hat that's gonna say, make me young again. That's what it's gonna say.
Oh, that's what you want. Good, good. Okay, okay.
Okay, so, why don't you go ahead and give us our final words, and then we'll sign off.
Well, the final words are, one is the more important thank you that I want to extend to you for co-hosting with me today, because you always have something good to say. You always bring some issues to the broadcast that we can exchange information about. So that's good. Someone's ringing my doorbell. The other thing is that I will see everybody next week. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Louise.